Hello and welcome to Equine Voices. My name is Ronnie and I'm your host for this evening. And I'm very pleased to announce my special guest tonight, called Matthias Geysen. So I hope I've pronounced that right. I'm sure he'll correct me if I haven't. And he lives in France, and I'm going to bring him in shortly to introduce himself. So I know a little bit about him, but it's from the videos that I've seen about his liberty work and traveling around the world, and his wanting to know more about what life is all about. So I'll read a little something that I found on his website. So, I am someone who likes to explore my boundaries and limitations and the essence of life. What is the reason for our existence? Which is a very, very big question. So I'm going to bring him in and he can introduce himself, and then we'll just find out a little bit more about him and we'll start to ask him questions. Hello.
Hi everyone. Thank you for inviting me for the interview.
You are very welcome. Would you like to just introduce yourself and just give us a little taste of who Matthias is?
Okay. So at the moment, I'm 31 years old. So my name is, as you already said before, I'm Matthias Geysen. At the moment, I'm living in the south of France. I've been a professional horse trainer for the past 10 years. So my specialty was more like working with the horses who had a difficult problem because of the people, just because of the situation, because of the surroundings. But like you already said before, the reason why I stopped, because I was explaining so much the same story over and over again that it became just a little bit too tired for me. So the goal for me is just to help people to get more in connection with their own intuition and their way of being. And I think I can find many other ways just to help people as well, but just without the horses, in a different kind of direction. So to be honest, I'm very bad with introductions, like I already said to you as well before. So I prefer skipping this part a little bit and just start asking me questions. It's gonna be much more spontaneous and much more fluid.
Okay.
And you will see when you're gonna ask questions, I'm also gonna talk more about my history and stuff. So it's gonna be fine.
Okay, so you can breathe now. You can breathe.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just us two talking. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, by the way, as we go through this informal interview, it's a chat really. If you have any questions, if you'd like to write a comment, and then I'll present that to Matthias, and he can try and answer if he can. So let's go back a little bit. When did horses come into your life? How did that evolve?
So for me, I started riding horses when I was 10 years old. So I started together with my dad. Both of us, we didn't follow any lessons. So we just went always outside in the fields. So we didn't ride in the arena. So it was a beautiful experience. It was a really good time in between me and my dad. But I think, so I was riding from my 10 to my 12 years old. And I think you can imagine, if you're 12 years old, being a small boy, riding horses is not the most coolest thing to do. So I decided to actually also stop riding the horses, and I became a skateboarder. So I did skateboarding like every day from the morning till the evening, till I was 18, 19. So what happened during those time, I had lost a little bit the connection with my parents, because it's also a different kind of environment. So what happened, I decided to go back to the horses, because I know you're always outside, you're surrounded by the animals, and also in that way I was also able to connect back again with my dad. The thing is, when I came back to the horses, he decided to stop working with horses, so I was just left alone. But I was still, every day I was always outside and just developing my knowledge about the horses, but also about myself. So that's a little bit the small introduction.
That must have been really special, going riding with your dad. That must have, I can imagine that must have been a really special moment.
It's a very beautiful, and that's also the thing for my dad. For instance, it was very difficult, and when I decided to stop with the horses when I was 12, because for him, I think, yeah, you can imagine being a parent. If you spend time with your son, doing something you both love, of course, it's nice to share such kind of experience. So for him was kind of difficult. And that's also, once again, the reason why I came back to the horses, to get back in that kind of connection. But for him, I think he was already doing this for 9 years, 10 years. So he was just becoming too tired, because I think all of us know it's also a lot of work. You have to maintain the horses, you have to go outside. If it's sunny, it's nice, it's kind of nice. But if you go in the rain, the snow, I can imagine for him after 10 years, it became just a little bit too much. So that's the reason why, why he stopped.
So when you came back into horses, what sort of work was you doing? Was it your own business, or was you working somewhere else?
So my personal opinion about working with horses, I think if you're gonna approach a horse, and even from in the beginning, I always knew like it's all about everything is turning about me, about my way of being, my presence. So if I'm capable of just being unique and just being me, horses, they want to approach me because it's nice to hang around me. So for instance, the first time when I approached horses, I always had a good feeling, everything was kind of nice, I had a good connection with them. But for instance, there are two people that are in the horse industry that personally I admire, and that was before you had like Hempfling, Klaus Ferdinand Hempfling. I don't know if people know him. It's a very nice guy, because I think he's one of those people who had a good connection with horses. But I do think, and I'm not going to talk about somebody's back, but I think he lost a little bit his track, in my opinion. So at the moment, it's a little bit less interesting. And then the other person is Frédéric Pignon. So it's the Frenchman. He's also working a lot of liberty work. So the reason why I'm telling this is, in the beginning, when I was 18, 19, I came back to the horses. My dad was also interested by Klaus Ferdinand Hempfling. And so one day he gave me a book. So say, if you want, you can just take a look at the book, how he's doing stuff. And so when I look at the book, I'm not the person who's really gonna read all the text, and I'm always looking at pictures. If I look at a picture, I can see, he's doing like this, or he has such kind of connection with the horses. For me, this is much more value than just reading what he's trying to explain. But still, I think I wrote 1 or 2 pages, and the day after I go to the horses, and what happened for me, the connection was almost completely gone, because I was in my mind, I was thinking, he's doing like this, and you have to do this, and you have to. So I lost completely my own instinct. I was copying something from someone else, and the horses, obviously, they're also going to feel this. So from in the beginning, I knew for me that's not the good way. So I think for 3 years, maybe 4 or 5 years, I was always being independent, and I'm not joking. I didn't watch anyone else. So I was always alone in my little field, going outside for walks. There were not big écuries, riding stables in the region. So I was really just like doing everything alone. And after 4 or 5 years, then I was finally capable of looking at other people or seeing their approach about certain situations. Because at that moment I was strong enough to keep true to myself. And before, when I was younger, I was not able, And that's also one of the biggest problems I think with most people these days. Is sometimes we want to be too perfectionist, which obviously it's kind of normal, I think, especially for a lot of women when they're 30, 40 years old. From in the beginning, it happens often when you're too young. But I think we all know 90% of the people who ride horses today are all women. So that's why I'm giving an example with about women. So most young ladies, when they were young, I think that's a big dream for a lot of young women to have their own horse, but it's too expensive. It's too much work. The parents, they don't allow such kind of stuff, so it's not possible. Afterwards, they grow up and they're gonna start studying. It's not the moment yet. Then afterwards, they're gonna meet a new boyfriend. It's not the moment yet. Afterwards, they're gonna get married. Then they're gonna have the children. It's never the moment. So then afterwards, when everything is done, and they finally have the time to buy their own horse, it's a dream that's coming true for so long. They have to wait so long. So I can imagine in their situation, it's difficult to not be perfectionist and really don't want to make mistakes because you waited so long. But because of being too perfectionist and want to do everything, being too perfect, that's the worst mistake we can make, in my opinion. So that's why I always try to say to people: if you're gonna work with horses, don't be afraid to make mistakes at all. If you just try as much as you can, if it doesn't function, it's not a problem. If you're gonna make the same mistake twice, it's still not a problem. If you're gonna say the same mistake 3 times, then you have to be careful. Then you have to say, okay, maybe that approach is not the best thing. If you're gonna make the same mistake 4 times, then it's obviously that you're gonna create some kind of bad connection in between both. But try once, try twice, and if it doesn't function, just try something else. It's not a bad thing. Try as much as possible. And that's the reason why I came to this position, is because I made thousands of mistakes. And that's the reason how I learned. And that's also the reason why I can explain people how to approach in a different way, because I've been through the same position as them. See?
So you're very right about a lot of ladies
It's
coming
really
to horses late. I mean, I was somebody that could not, you know, when I was younger, my parents couldn't afford a horse, and if I went for riding lessons, that was like, wow, that was such a luxury. And I would be the child at the window that when you heard the clip clop of the shoes, you'd run to the window and you'd go out the door and you'd look at the person sat on the horse, and you'd be thinking, oh my God, I wish they'd let me sit on that horse. And obviously they wouldn't, but as a child, that's all you wanted. And then when you do have a horse, finally, you rely on, if you're on your own, you rely on information, videos, books, or you go to a school, you know, where you learn to ride and learn about horses. So doing your way, which you was very lucky to be able to do that, that taught you so much. So.
Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt, but it's true. I can imagine, and that's a good opinion. It's true. I have a good connection with myself, and that's also the reason why I'm capable of listening to the horse and just adjusting what they're teaching me. So I think that's true. Some people they're not always in the same connection, let's say, or they don't have, maybe they've been through some certain situations in life, which because of this, they're not able to trust their intuition anymore. So that's obviously that's possible. So it depends what kind of person, depends what kind of approach you're going to use. So that's also the reason why you have a lot of people who are going to teach people with techniques, for instance. For a lot of people, this can be a good way, because they don't have the connection, they don't have the intuition. So if you can follow an exercise and you can follow a technique that somebody is showing you, of course it's going to help you. So it can be a good thing. But I do think if you really want to go to a higher connection, I think this is only possible if you're true to yourself and just try to be unique and try to be yourself. Otherwise, I don't think. Depends how far you want to go.
So if somebody came to you now, how do you approach this? So say somebody came along to you and said, oh, Matthias, I want to understand my horse more. I want to understand what the horse is presenting to me. How do you approach that? How would you start? So this is a total stranger. You don't know them. They've come along.
First of all, I think if you want to have a good connection with horses, I think if you want to have a good connection with horses, it's not possible by only focusing on horses. I think it's a way of living. Everything is turning about, if, for instance, let us say 80%, sadly enough, 80% of the people today, they have to wake up and they have to do something they don't really like doing. They have to go to a job because of, but you have the bills to pay, so you're obligated to go. But can you imagine if you wake up and you have to do something that's not 100% in alignment with yourself? It's going to be much more complicated to really get the connection you need to really connect with the horses. So everything starts from in the beginning. When you wake up, you have to find some kind of way, and that's also something I'm offering, that I'm trying to explain now with the program on my platform. I think it's finding a way of really finding your purpose and finding your goal in life. Not only just about horses, but just in life in general. If you're able to find this, then you will see that your connection and your intuition with yourself is gonna explode in millions of ways. And sorry for the stuttering. If you're gonna go then to the horses, then you will see it's gonna be completely different kind of connection. It's a huge difference. So what I always suggest to people, don't focus too much on horses, but try to really find your purpose and goal. And of course, it's a really small sentence, but it's a very difficult. Yeah, it's a very big thing. It's not easy for many people.
So, based on that answer, how would you approach that? So, a lot of people with horses probably intuitively know more about them than they realize at times. And once I find that if you point that out and let them see that for themselves when you're working with them, then they feel it and they understand that more. How would you approach that answer to the question to the person if they're not really aware? Would you show them, or is that part of your work with that person?
When I'm working with horses, you mean?
So you just said that if somebody wants to find a better connection with their horse, you say to them, it's about finding the connection to yourself. That's the important bit. So how do you approach that with your clients? What would you do?
So often, what my experience, what I had before, often the biggest problem is that we overthink situations. So if you're going to approach a horse, and it's also what you just mentioned before, there is so much knowledge these days about horses. He's doing like this, she's doing like this, he's doing like this. There are so many different ways, and a lot of people, like I said before, we want to be perfect, so we try to take as much knowledge as possible. But then what happens if you go to the horses, we overthink so many situations. And because of this, it's much more difficult to get some kind of connection. So when I first go to the people and I see that they're struggling for some kind of, it depends what kind of exercise, it depends what kind of situation. But what I do often is that they have to focus on something physical. There are some people, but not many people can really try to stop the thinking process by overthinking, if you know what I mean. So with those people, you just have to say, okay, you have to give them some kind of structure. You have to say, okay, if you stand still, try to listen to the birds, try to listen to the winds. I try to feel the winds. If you walk, try to see how the sand is moving. At least if you walk in the riding arena, try to really focus on physical stuff. And because of this, slowly the mind is going to stop. But it's a whole process. And that's also the reason why it's very helpful for other ways when the people who are teaching with techniques, because if you do a technique, then you're focused on the exercise and not so much on your mind or not so much on the horse. If you know what I mean. You're doing an exercise, and that's the reason why it's so attractive for other people, because it can be very helpful.
Yes.
But then once again, depends how far you want to go with the connection.
Okay. So you also ride Liberty. So for the people that are not aware of who you are, there are some videos, and I can attach the links after this interview. And I think I shared one, but it's a video of you riding Liberty bareback and bridleless, and I think you're in the States. I don't know if you're in Wyoming or
in Montana.
I mean, Montana, yeah. And that's always looks idyllic. It looks lovely because it just feels, and I know some people do that, but they've got there from a different place. They've got there from a different way. But yours is very much about listening to the horse and the trust between each other, and that feeling of just being in sync with each other. Can you describe a little bit more about that side of it?
About a connection, you mean riding a Liberty?
Yeah. So what made you get into that side? Is it just part of the process of your gut, your intuition with your horses?
So for me, it's always that's a very big topic. For this, you can go for a long time. So I just have to focus how I can organize this sentence. When I started doing, I'm gonna start with a different kind of approach.
It's okay.
If you're gonna ride horses, there are many ways. The same with connecting. There are many ways how to ride a horse. Very basic. I think we all know. It's just with the saddle, with the reins. If you want to go to the left, you pull on the left rein. If you want to go to the right rein, and all the basic stuff. This is the first approach. Afterwards, if you want to develop a little bit more, it's going to be all with the body language and with body weight. So this is already a step afterwards. For a lot of people, it's already more complicated because you need to be also in the moment, but your body needs to be flexible. Your hips need to be loose, and it's more precise. So this is second step. Afterwards, if you have a good connection with your horse, because it's also a very big thing that some people don't always realize. I think it's the same in a relationship in between people. You can be together with someone, but it doesn't always mean that it's the 100% the good person. And people still stay with that person because they're afraid of finding someone else. Often, fear is a very big problem for a lot of situations. So it's the same with the horses. You're always going to have a good connection with certain kind of horse. But with some horses, there is just something extra, something more special. So when you have a good horse and you're really in the moment and you're gonna go outside in the forest or even in the arena, just with your mind, if you're strong enough, you have a good connection, just by thinking going to the left, to the right, you will see that your horse is already responding. So this is the third step. This is already much more complicated. And only once in my life that I've witnessed a beautiful experience where I was working with my stallion. I had an Arabic stallion, so it was my personal horse, and I was riding outside in the fields, and for maybe 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, my personality didn't exist anymore. The personality of my horse didn't exist anymore. We just became something else, like the mythological figures, the centaur, exactly the same. It's unbelievable, the experience. As you can see now when I'm talking to you, I'm using my hands. See, there's not a fraction of a second in between all those movements. It was exactly the same. I just had 4 legs. So if I want to go to the right, I just went to the right. If I want to start trotting, I had 4 legs. Can you imagine the connection? How crazy it is.
Wow.
So when you go to such kind of situation, the whole approach and the vision about horses is going to change completely. The only reason why I was capable of having such kind of experience is because at that moment I was in the moment, and I was able to join his. I was able to, how to explain this in English? I was able to get in his world, in his way of being.
Yes.
So can you imagine how it is for horses? They're always waiting. They're always in that kind of position. The only reason why it's not happening is because we are not ready to have such kind of experience. So then the thing is, what happens afterwards, and I have this experience also because of other situations. The biggest problem that we can have as people afterwards is the desire to have such kind of experience once again. So I'm 100% sure if I want to achieve this again, it's never gonna happen. I'm 100% sure it's never gonna happen, because when you desire something, you create the opposite. And that's also the reason why I think maybe if I'm capable of just letting go, maybe when I'm gonna be 60 years old, maybe when I'm 70 years old, maybe I am capable of being always in that kind of moment. I think it's gonna depend on my development and just my way of being. So, and if it's not gonna be, if I'm not able to experience this situation again, then I just had a beautiful experience once, and I won't forget about it. So I can't complain.
Yeah, wow. I got goosebumps as you was talking there. I mean, I understand what you were saying from my view, that so you literally feel like you are part of the horse. There's no separation.
I'm not even part of the horse. That's the thing. I'm not part of anything. You just become something. It's it's a completely different subject, but it's even the same with just being connected with everything.
Yes.
If you're gonna walk outside, if you have a personal view, then you're gonna explore the world out of your vision. But there are so many different visions of so many people, So I think, well, I'm gonna give another example. If you're gonna look at a tree, with 5 different people, 100% sure that all of us are gonna see the tree with a different perspective. It's going to be a different emotion for all the 5 of us. Yeah. Why? Because every one of us is being unique. Okay. So I think the goal of life is to lose that personal vision, to lose your own, your way of being, and just look at the tree and understand the essence behind the tree. And I think if we are able of doing this, all 5 of us are able to achieve this point, and then then there is no more arguing. There is no more arguing. Sorry, there
No,
is
no,
no
it's
more
okay.
arguing in between all of us because we know the essence about the tree.
Yeah.
See, so the thing is, how can we achieve that kind of point? Is to being in the beginning being unique and find your personal way to get to that point, and then you're able to let go, and then you will see if you're gonna walk around, everything is gonna be completely different. You're gonna see everything is completely different. The connection with people, the connection with horses, it's a completely different approach of life.
Wow, that was very passionately put.
Oh, thank you.
And I do understand. So I'll just share a little something that happened to me. So when I'm driving in my car, for me, driving in my car is the time when I'm doing less and focusing on one thing, and information flows to me. And I quite often get messages and just information. And then sometimes, and this was one particular time, I've had similar experiences, but this was like really a strong experience. And I was driving to my horse before I was going to work. And as I was driving, I'd already been getting some information about something. And when I finished, because what I do is I use my phone and record it, because as it comes, it's so fast, I have to record it. So I record it on the phone as I'm driving, so I can still do what I'm doing. And when I recorded the message, I literally felt like I was driving my car, but I was connected to my car, to the road, to the trees, to the clouds. It sounds really bizarre, but there was nothing solid. It was really beautiful. In fact, I had to ground myself because I thought, I've got to ground myself. There was no. I knew I was in my car when you were sat on your horse, your stallion, but it wasn't there. It was so similar, maybe not quite to the heartfelt as you, but it was very powerful, and it was beautiful, and I could smell the air, and I could feel what the tree was feeling. And this is going to sound a bit, out there, but because I was literally part of that energetic field. I was part of everything that I was observing. And I was driving, so it wasn't like I was sat meditating to experience that. It was because I think because I was flowing through something else that was coming through, that enabled me to feel my external world even more than I would normally, if that makes sense. So I can sort of, but to do that with
it's just the same. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter.
yeah,
This experience you can have in every
anywhere, yeah,
the thing is, and that's what you're saying, the reason why, how to explain this, I do think it's very important of course, that you have to stay grounded. For instance, the experience that you're explaining now, and the experience, like I was saying before with the horse, this is something normally before I never shared to people. A lot of things what I'm doing, normally I don't share such kind of stuff, because it's like a little bit people who talk and they start floating to different kind of ways, and it's, you know what I mean, it's like the hippie kind of stuff. Often it's being connected with such kind of people. So I'm not judging on anyone, but I think you know what I mean. So often those stories I just keep them for myself. It's not necessary to talk about them because it's my experience. And now at first, it's the first time actually, because with the platform I'm doing, and also because with this interview, I do have to explain a little bit more about my vision and my experiences, because otherwise people don't understand why I am capable of riding horses in such kind of liberty, or just a way of living. Because You have to explain at least something so they understand your vision and your way
Yeah.
of being.
And that's what this platform is for. It's to just to chat with people, but you are welcome to talk as freely as you want to. There's nothing off limits. This is a platform for people that have horses or interest in horses. But for me, it's very much about what the horses show us or bring to us. And a lot of people, when they have an animal, they want to ride, as you said, they want to look the part, they want to be perfect. But as they spend more time with them, they realize actually there's another way. There's something more to this, or maybe they don't even realize that, but it changes something about them. And I think especially now, then it's not. So for me and for a lot of people and for yourself, it's not a case if you have a horse, you ride your horse, you do your horse, and you go to your day job, you go to your day life. It's integrating what that brings to you into every area of your life. And the intuition is a big thing. The intuition, the watching the subtleties, feeling that subtle feeling, and how does that work into your day-to-day life? Because as you earlier said, that is the big thing, and that's the thing that when you know more about who you are and your feelings and how things can change and how you see things differently just by being aware of yourself, that's a huge thing. And it has ramifications and it has a knock-on effect on many, many things. And it's not just contained to you as an individual. Whoever you come into contact with, you may just say something or show them something, and that might be their catalyst to change their world. So it's a knock-on effect. Horses are a mutual ground where we can have something that we're drawn to, but it goes far beyond that, far beyond that. So feel free to share whatever you like.
Thank you. But you just always have to ask me the questions because otherwise it's gonna be
Yeah. Okay.
chaotic. But one of the things, for instance, that I can explain also, which is kind of important to share with the people. I think if you're gonna work with horses, and that's also just about life in general. I think everything in life is always everything is turning about some kind of balance. It's a balance in between the feminine energy and the masculine energy. And I do think if you're gonna work with horses, that you have to find if you're gonna approach a horse and you're gonna be too masculine. And what does it mean masculine? It's like this is gonna be the way and you have to listen and it's very strong. It's not a good approach. If you're gonna be too feminine, and too feminine means like, oh, the horse and how is he doing, and then that's too feminine. It's also kind of dangerous. You have to find the balance in between both. If you're able of doing this, then you will see the connection with your horses. It's a huge difference. And also I do think if you see horses, it's a little bit the same with the tree. For me, a horse is a representation of an energy that finds a beautiful balance in between the physical world and the emotional world. So if you're going to approach a horse too physical, like too masculine, it's not a good thing. If you're going to approach with too much emotions, it's also kind of dangerous. If you can find the balance, you can really are able to get a good connection, because then you're still grounded, but still with a lot of emotions. And I think that's the key of the good connection with horses, but just also about life in general.
Thank you. That was perfectly said. I was smiling when you said too emotional because that's me. Well,
But I
actually,
think that's a lot of women, to be honest, which can be a really good thing as well. But once again, it's about the balance, and sometimes you over exaggerate the situation.
yeah, yes, yeah,
And
yeah,
also,
a
to
balance.
give another example about horses, I'll say, and I think that's makes it maybe more of easy for people to understand. If you're gonna work with horses, I do think, my opinion, if you're gonna work with a horse, I think it's more easy for a man to work with sensitive, let us say, mares, and it's more easy for a woman to work with a stallion. And just general speaking. So the reason why is if you have a beautiful stallion, like a beautiful stallion, nice and strong, he's making that movements. If you're being a man, you're gonna say, "Whoa, such a beautiful stallion, because we connect, we know how it is, that being proud. And so what's going to happen, a man riding such a stallion, we're going to be the same. So the energy is going to go up, 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 till it's going to be exploding, or you know what I mean. If you have a woman who's riding a beautiful stallion, she's going to be like this. Of course, the woman is also going to is going to see the movements. And after 5 minutes, she's going to say, okay, I saw all the movements, calm down. It's not necessary to be so that's a big difference. You're gonna create the opposite, and because of this, he's gonna calm down. And it's just the same with the mare. If you have beautiful, very sensitive horses, if she's horses with a lot of things on their mind, or they're gonna go quick and have difficulties with giving structure in their way of being, then it's much more easy, often, once again general, for a man riding a horse than a woman. The reason why is, if the mare is going like crazy, the man on top is going to say, oh, just calm down. It's not necessary. There's nothing going on. Just take it easy. A woman is going to ride such kind of horse. She wants to understand the problem. She's going to say, oh, what's happening? Why is she doing this? Why is she? And you just become the same as the way of being as a horse. So the horse doesn't have a reference point anymore. And because of this, you're going to create a very complicated and difficult situation. So once again, it's just general speaking. You always have.
No, but that's yeah. I totally understand that, and I saw that because, definitely my horse is a mare, and I'm not as emotional with her as I used to be. And you tend to be a bit too attentive and a bit, that sort of way, which actually made her not worse, but yes, it had the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes now I can be quite matter of fact, and it's almost, when I do that, her energy comes down, because I treat her as if she's not my horse, she's somebody else's. So the attachment's not quite as heartfelt. But just for those few seconds when I achieve that, there's a change. And it's like, thank goodness. And I know if if I go and I've got lots of busy head, lots of thoughts, I don't do a lot with her. I just do what I need to do, because if she's feeling a little bit that way too, it's like, actually, that's too close, and we'll she'll go off down the field. And for other moments when she wants to be a bit closer, I know, because there's a different feel about her. But yes, so I totally got what you said about.
There's just one more thing I would like to add, and that's the thing. If you want to learn something about yourself, then it is a good thing. Being a man taking a stallion, it's a good thing. Being a woman taking a mare, it's much more complicated. But if you want to learn something about yourself, that's the better approach. It's gonna take more longer, but it's gonna be better.
You can say that again. Yeah, definitely. She's. I mean, it's because of her that I'm doing this. That I do what I do. So where are you today? I know you've got a new website, and you've been doing interviews yourself, and you mentioned Frederick. How did you come to meet him?
With Frederick, but it's difficult to say, because I don't like talking about people's back. So but it's difficult. One thing I can say, it's a difficult person to approach. He's living in his own thing. He's a very nice guy, but difficult to approach. So I was very lucky that I also know someone who was, when she was small, she was a little bit, they grew up together with Frederick and Magali. So this person is living in Australia, and so she connected me with Frederick. And then I was kind of lucky, because at that moment I was in the Pyrenees, the French Pyrenees. So I was filming for the platform. And then Frederick called me and said, so I explained my project. So I told me about my plans. And I said, okay, you're able to come, but then you have to it's going to be kind of busy for me. So if you come, then you have to be here by tomorrow. So I said, oh. So I stopped filming, put the camera in, and so we drove for 8 hours, I think 8-9 hours, to go to his place. So the interview was nice, but the little bit of a sad thing about it, I was not really prepared for the situation. So it's okay, but I could have done a little bit more professional, but at the same time, that's just the way it is. For instance, I want to ask him a lot of questions. The questions were fine, but I think how it is because you're doing the same thing. It's very important to ask the good questions in the good moment. Also with the camera, I only had one camera. If you do it with 2 or 3, you can make it a little bit more professional. But at the same time, it's not about the setup. It's about the interaction in between us and the conversation. So it still turned out fine, but yeah. So anyway, also just about him, the reason why I love what he's doing is because that's one of the people, just in my opinion, who's really able to be in the moment and just connect in a way that I do think that goes further than just only being around horses. So to give a small example, these days more and more people start doing the liberty kind of work, or they're gonna give spectacles and different kind of stuff, which is a beautiful and a good thing. But often it's some kind of rehearsal. So if you go to a show and you have a lot of people sitting around, and the horse is gonna give a different kind of reaction, for a lot of people it's difficult to handle this situation because they have a routine, And with Frédéric, the reason why his spectacles are always so beautiful, because when the horse is doing something different, which is not rehearsed before, he's just improvising. He's being in the moment and he's just going with the flow. And even if there's so many people around him, and I think that's a very strong, strong point of him. It's just, this is only possible if you're able to be in the moment. A little bit like I was telling before, because otherwise you just, and once again, if you do something like this with 2 people watching, it's already nice. But if you do it with 500,000, I don't even know how many people sometimes there are, but that's next level. I really think that I really look up to such kind of person. So yeah.
So what is it that you so like I said, you have a website, a new website, and you want to do more work. What is it that you are wanting to go forward with?
Okay, so like I already told you before, so for me it's more about understanding the bigger picture. So that's the reason why I stopped teaching with the horses just not so long ago, is because I felt too much limitations. If you give a clinic, it's only 2 days, so you can help people in many ways, but still it's you have to show that, at least that's what I would like to do, is you have to show how people have to live on a certain kind of way, So 2 days is not enough. So that's the reason why I created this platform, is because also one more thing before is people saw a couple of videos about me, but if you didn't follow a clinic that I was giving, people don't have any idea at all how I was approaching horses because on my Facebook page I didn't wrote so much about methods or just about my personal vision. So with the platform, this is the first time I'm really able to just explain about many things. Once again, not only just about horses, but also just about life in general. And so yeah, that's, for me, it's a really good exercise, because also I really don't like electronics. Not at all. I even hate it. I'm a guy who likes to go outside and just be in nature. So because this is for me something new and something I really don't like doing that much, I do think it's learning a lot about myself as well. So I think it's a good thing. And in the future, I would like to create back again the possibility that I can invite people, so we can work a little bit with horses, not with riding, but just I would like to explain people what they represent, and with horses you can also, obviously, you can show when you think too much, or it's much more easy to explain certain things to people. But that's something I'm going to explain on another time, because it's going to be a big project, and that's for another time.
So you're going to invite people along to
So the first stage is I'm going to invite people, but then once again that's going to be a whole project. I still have to figure out a couple of things, and then when everything is really 100%, then I can start speaking about the new approach.
So I know you said you don't like the technology side. I mean, this was all new to me before I started it, and it wasn't something that I was aware of, or it was already understood. I didn't understand it totally, but I was drawn. So I follow my intuition, and sometimes I'll do things and have no idea why, and I don't. And it's like, really, and I started doing these, and I started to ask people if they'd like to come on for a chat and just, to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And to my surprise, most people have said yes, which is still, I'm still so grateful to that, and yourself too. And I
Mm-hmm.
always, I don't go delving and looking at everybody. If they cross my path, it's just that person feels right, I'll ask them on, which is what happened to you. So I don't know a huge amount about you, but I'd seen you for the last few years. I think maybe it was the Liberty video, and you was talking, and I thought, you've got such a nice voice, and what you were saying was quite was on my wavelength at that time. It was something I was looking at.
Yeah.
And that's how I work. I work with my intuition, but I do enjoy this because I get to meet people that I probably would never meet. And for you, the platform is going to be something that will spread what you believe and
Mhm.
hopefully help other people too.
For sure, and I completely agree with the for my platform, for instance, I interviewed 3 people, so people, also just to explain a little bit more about certain kind of approaches with horses, and it was the first time I was really speaking to other horse teachers, so it was very interesting for me to see how other people approach their life situations, or their difficulties with horses. So for me, it was very, very interesting to see. And I do think because of this, then I started realizing that I really, um yeah, just it's difficult to explain. Like I really, really do think that my approach, for instance, is very, very strong connected with daily life, and everything I'm learning in daily life, I try to adjust with horses. And this is not something, because of this experience, not everybody is doing the same approach, which is kind of obvious, of course. But still, I didn't knew how much the big difference was in between all of us. So I was kind of learnful, and it doesn't mean like I'm better, or not at all. Even it's just a different approach. So
Yeah.
it was interesting to see.
No, yeah, and it's through interacting and meeting and chatting with other people that you realize where you are in your life and where they are in theirs, sort of, because you obviously don't know everything about them, but yeah, because you can see somebody that's maybe on YouTube, or have a strong following, and you can like what they do, but then you can see something else thinking, well, that's that's lovely, and they get the results, but it's the other side is slightly different, and it's about, as you said, and for me, it's about waking up in the morning and having that same ethos of where you want to be in your life, who you want to be, and where what you want to understand what is life about. It's not just about getting up in the morning, going to work, coming home, and doing the same thing every single day. And that's an old version of what we thought life was about. Life is so much more. And if we take a chance and do one small thing that we really want to do, because it gives us passion, it makes us fire and enthusiastic, that's the start of something. And if we understand that more about ourselves, then opportunities come along and doorways open, so you can almost step forward into the next bit. It's like having a blindfold on and trusting that when you take that step, there's something there underneath your feet. There's something not to be afraid of. And learning about what you're capable of, and who you thought you was, a few years ago is not who you are today. yeah, it's a lot bigger um, than the world we think is out there.
Mhm.
There's a whole nother world that we don't see.
Mhm.
It's not visible, but we can tap into it just as easy.
Mhm. Yeah, but it takes some time. It's not always that easy, but it takes some time
No.
to really enter it. That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, nothing. I mean, living life isn't always
Mhm.
easy, but you know, yeah, it's, yeah. We could go on a whole different subject there.
Yeah.
But it's possible. It's possible for everybody. You know, somebody can say, well, that's okay for you to say that's your life, you know, but no, it's possible for it for
But
anybody.
often the thing is, well, and that's something that's really something I've saw kind of often, is sometimes people, they underestimate. For instance, about my situation, then I'm pretty sure a lot of people think, oh, you know, it's kind of easy for him. You know, it's kind of like you said, it's kind of easy. His way. He was maybe kind of lucky. He has a good intuition. He's, you know, everything. He's not struggling. He doesn't have any problems. Or, but it's completely the opposite. People have no ideas all the things that I've been through, but because of all those situations, I was able to learn, to develop as a person I'm today. And that's what every person you see that has a little bit of fame or a little bit of he established something. Often those people, they really have struggled into many difficult subjects in their life, and that's just the reason why they came to that point. And that's really something I do think that a lot of people sometimes they underestimate. So I think
Yeah,
every person is always going, not 100% the same, but you know, kind of going to the same phases of life. And everybody's going, if everybody's approaching on their unique way, but you still have to overcome those the same problems. That's just the way it is.
yeah. It's not about seeing life through rose-tinted glasses and thinking
No.
everything's lovely, but it's
Hmm.
how you approach that. You can either see something and really take it to heart and get an emotional involved with that, or
Hmm.
you can take a step back, especially if it's nothing to do with you. It's not affecting you at that moment. Then you
Hmm.
can observe it and you can have empathy, but you don't need to feel that because it's not happening to you. It's happening. That's not your life. This is where you are at this moment in time. And again, it's not quite as simple as that, but changing how my mindset has been the biggest thing, and not being a victim. Whatever happens, it's happened. It's not happened to me and nobody else. It's, you know, it's, you deal with it and then you move on. I'm not a victim. I'm
Hmm.
I'm in charge of my life and where I go. And if um, how much I achieve is down to me too. I mean, there may be
And it's very nice, and I think it's very nice that you already came to the point that you realize this. But for a lot of people, this is very confronting, because then it means like everything, every move you make in life is your responsibility.
yes,
And
but
then
it
for
is.
other people, this is very difficult to deal with the situation, and
Yeah.
that's why it's very easy to say, "Oh, you know, because of this, I'm not capable of. Because of this, I'm not capable of doing this." It's very easy to blame something else or someone
Mhm.
else. What
Yeah.
actually, like you're saying, it's just things. Life is not always fair. It's just that's just the way it is. It's just about you, how you're able to deal with that situation and that at that certain kind of moment.
Mhm.
And then once again, it's kind of confronting for a lot of people because it's your responsibility, and that's also one of the good things I think. Also in life in general, but also just about our connection with horses. If you're gonna work with a horse, they're always gonna show you. But even then, people gonna always blame something. You work with horse eyes because of this. It's because of this. No, so it's typical. I think that's typical being human.
It is, yeah. I mean, I used to be that person though. Why is this happening to me? And um, but the more you think that way, the more of it comes. And I've
Mhm.
figured out through my own learning that when you realise that actually you're the only person that can change something, and it's down to you.
Mhm.
And I'm lucky that I'm single, so any decisions I make is down to me. It doesn't affect a huge. But if you've got a family and you know you've got children, it's more difficult because you are thinking about everybody else. But actually, that's when you need to pull back and think about yourself, because if you're unhappy, if something's not right for you, it's not hidden. The others can feel it. But we're going down a different route now. So I
No,
think
but
we'll,
I do think it's interesting because you also say, for instance, like, you're lucky for instance, you're being single. It depends how you see certain kind of stuff. I think being single or having a family, both of them have
yeah,
positive and negative sides. It's just
yeah,
the way it is. It's just the same. So I do think it's everything. Even if you have a family, of course, in a lot of situations, it's going to be more complicated. But at the other hand, for a lot of situations, it's also much more easy because you have your family surrounding you, who are going to help you overcome the problem. At least if you have a decent family. So everything is, once again, even in your family, everything is going to turn around you. If you are fine with yourself and you just accept, your way of being a good mom, obviously your children are going to love you, general, because you're being you, you know. And I think, yeah, I think it's kind of the same if you're living alone or with the family. It's
yeah.
still turning about your way of being.
Yes, yeah, yeah. But I think what I was trying to say was, if I made the wrong choice, it wouldn't affect others. It would just affect me.
I,
So
mm,
on that sort of level, it was maybe
okay,
slightly easier. Yeah.
okay.
So let's get back to, so where are you today? What have you got planned coming up? So I know you want to do.
At the moment, so normally I live in the south of France, like 1 hour and a half from Bordeaux. But at the moment, so for people who don't know, so when I stopped working with horses, it was a very big change, because I also, at the moment, I was also single, so I broke up with my girlfriend. So she bought the riding stable, so I quit my job, I quit my house. The girlfriend was a completely different chapter. So I bought a camper car, and with the camper car, I traveled around. So I did the whole coast of Portugal and Spain. So the reason why I was doing this is just because I was working too much before. I was working 7 and 7. I was giving so many clinics abroad in different kind of countries. When I was going back home, I had all the interns waiting with their questions. So I didn't have any personal time anymore. Also not with the girlfriend, but just in general. So I just needed to resource, just connect with myself again. So I bought the camper car, traveled around. So it was a beautiful experience. But after a couple of months, I'll say a year, then I had it. You can travel for a long time, but at the moment, I want to start back again with a new chapter. So I went back to France. I was creating the platform, so that's created. So now I'm teaching people online. And at the moment, now I'm in Belgium because I have to sell my camper car. And just talking about commercial stuff, in Belgium, the camper cars are much more expensive than in France. So, and also, that's not the only reason. So, I'm also here because my family is still living in Belgium. Now, this sounds it's very bad that I gave the first reason was with the camper car. Not true. I came back with the family. So, I'm visiting, I'm going to the grandma and grandpa and the parents and sister.
Oh,
I think in a week or so, in a week or two, I'm gonna go back to France. And yeah.
so so you don't have any horses at the minute? You don't have.
But at the moment, yeah. So in
Yeah.
France, where I'm living there, the horses are just standing like 200 meters. There's a riding arena, but almost no people. So it's very nice. They have a lot of fields. They're always standing outside. It's very calm. There's a beautiful riding arena as well. At the moment, I'm not riding anymore, but if I would like to, there is a possibility. So what I'm doing now at the moment, for instance, if I go to the horses, um, so if you go to horses, there are many ways how you can approach and learn. And at my position now, where I'm standing now, is when I go to the horses. Once again, the example for every horse is representing some kind of feeling. So my gelding, before he was a stallion, now he's just recently gelding. He has something very sensitive, but also proud. The movement he's making is something very So when I go to him, I try to understand how he is, and I try to integrate his feeling and try to do the same in my life. And the same is with my mare. She has something very, very sensitive, and it's a softness. It's a softness at the moment that I'm not able to understand yet. She's on another level, so I'm trying to understand a little bit more about her vision and how she's seeing things.
Mm.
And so this is just possible just by sitting next to them, not just
Yes.
watching, feeling, and see how we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they sound lovely. What are your horses' names?
One horse, the gelding, is a Kilimanjaro. It's not a name I gave. Kilimanjaro Larios. It's a Spanish horse, and the Spanish people.
Hmm.
And the other horse is a Cleo. So
Ah,
that's Cleo is the mare.
yeah.
I was riding in the video that went viral, and that I was riding in Liberty outside.
Mm.
And also, that's something I would like to explain to people when I was making the video, for instance, because well, not a lot of people, but I do think that some people think like, oh, it's kind of irresponsible riding outside without the reins and the saddle and without the helmet, and especially also English people, Belgian people, and Dutch people. They're more critical. Right? Not judging on other countries, but that's just in general. So the reason why I made that video, even when I was starting filming, I was thinking, if I'm gonna go outside on the streets, am I gonna show this to people? Because that's maybe a step too much. But at the other hand, it's not I'm not showing off. I'm even the opposite. I was even doubting of not showing it to people. So the reason why I did show this is because that's just being me. That's just, for me, it's an exercise. So for instance, when I just started doing this, it's not like, oh, I'm just gonna jump on a horse and we're gonna go outside on the streets, because that would be irresponsible. But you do it step by step. So, for instance, in the beginning, you do it inside the arena, just see how she's moving. You make everything more subtle. I don't know how to say it in English. More sensitive. If you're capable of doing this and the horse is calm and you feel comfortable, afterwards you go outside in nature. If this is working fine, then you go to another step. And the reason why I'm always developing and pushing my boundaries is just to get the connection better with myself and my horse. So to give an example, first time, if you go outside, the environment, there is no problem. But the first time, if there is a small road like 100 meters in front, and that maybe 2 times a day, 4 times a day, there's only one car passing by, still, if there are almost no cars, and you already crossed the road for more than thousands of times, and even if I'm as a person, I'm kind of calm, so I'm not someone who's gonna stress like crazy. So when you're approaching the road 50 meters before, I don't know the English terms, let's say 50 feet, I don't know.
Mhm.
So when you're too much in front, even if I don't think too much about the situation, but just my stomach that's turning a little bit, she starts walking quicker. But there is no reins, there is nothing to hold on. So the only thing that can change my horse or the situation is my way of being. So that moment, you really just have to be even more in the moment, connect even more with yourself and the horse and just the bigger picture. So that's the reason why I try to push my boundaries, because this is learning much more about myself. And afterwards, when this is functioning, I try to go to a region a little bit more complicated, and like this, you keep developing. So it's not for showing off at all. It's even the opposite. For me, it's just learning about myself.
So yeah, so you're reading your energy and the horse's energy. You're feeling what's happening, and as it fluctuates into a different feel, you're adjusting what you do as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's showing you that you're listening. Your horse knows that you're listening because they can feel the change in your energy or what you're doing, your body. So, and that's like it's a conversation. You're having a non-verbal conversation all the time. Even when you're silent, you're communicating with each other.
It's about the emotions. And that's to give another example. If for instance, if you're going to train horses. So if you're going to train horses, there are many ways how to how to say this in English, breaking in a horse, training first time, putting a saddle on and everything else. So you can train a horse very physical. You can desensitize your horse to get on his back so he doesn't get spooked over all the movements around. You can do it with a carrot stick, with a bag, and there are many ways. So that's one approach. That's something most people do. But at the other hand, there is another approach, and that's the one that I'm doing, and it's more interesting for me as a person. It's just about understanding the horse. If you're able as a person, if you see the horse in front of you and you know what they represent, you understand their softness. Some horses, they are really soft. Some other horses, they have something very playful. Some other horses, they have something very grounded. There are many different kind of characters. If you as a person are able to understand what they represent, and I'm able to adjust my way of being, my energy to that horse, then you cannot imagine, it takes me 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and I can just go on the back without a saddle, without anything, because there is no reason at all for the horse to get spooked. We are exactly the same, but it's difficult sometimes to get to that kind of point. And to give another example is, sometimes it happens when I had a family party, or that's what I see also with other places, and you have a couple of horses, and then you always have parents with small children, even very small children. They say, even babies. They say, can I put my baby just on the back from the horse, and I would just keep holding him, I say, sure, no problem. Did you ever saw a horse getting spooked or going crazy? Maybe it can happen, but there's a very slim chance. The reason why is, if you know how a horse is, how his way of being is, he's just being calm. He's just standing there. If you put a baby on the back of a horse, normally, depends the age, but normally it's just pure love. It's a nice feeling. It's comfortable. It's something extra. It's something warm on the back. So why would you kick such kind of stuff away? He doesn't have a reason to kick it off. What happens, we as persons, we're gonna grow up, we're gonna develop, we're gonna become more afraid about certain situations, we're gonna overthink situations. It's gonna be completely, as a person, we change. Afterwards, if you're gonna get on the back of a horse and with fear or just overthinking, it's a strange feeling for the horse. He's just thinking like, what's this thing on my back? So he doesn't understand, so tries to kick it off. So that's how I see things.
Yeah.
So I try to really understand how I can develop as a person, try to adjust to the horse, and then you never have any. I'm not going to say never, but there is a very slim chance that really something dangerous will happen. And that's also the reason why when I gave clinics, or for instance, to the video that you spoke about before, when I was riding the Mustang in America, in Montana, he was already trained before by another person, the owner. So she was riding with a saddle and only once in a while with the neck rope. But like I said, some horses you just feel a certain kind of connection, and that was kind of one of those horses. So it was very easy to just put the saddle off, just see how he's responding to the body movements. And this was kind of nice. Just put the neck rope away straight away in the arena. Took me maybe 5 minutes, maybe even less. So just perfect, just walking, see how he's responding, starting trotting, everything is fine. A little gallop, everything is fine. And then afterwards, and that's a very big difference in between many people. For a horse, if you ride inside the arena without anything, it's a beautiful experience, 100%. But the moment when people go outside, people start overthinking. They say, "Oh, what's gonna happen? Maybe if the horse is gonna get spooked, and and that's something that's a difference between me and some other people. I still have enough confidence. For me, there is no difference in the arena or outside the arena. I even feel sometimes more at calm outside than inside the arena, and it's just the same for horses. Everything is natural outside. So that's the reason why we just went outside. We started filming, and we had a beautiful video, and this happened often with a lot of clinics. If you just feel and understand the horses, riding without anything, in the beginning you can say, "Oh, it's kind of a beautiful experience," but once you get used to this, to be honest, it's kind of natural.
Yeah.
There's not so much special about it.
I think it's because it looks free,
But
and deep down, I think most people want to feel that. about themselves and the horse, and it goes back,
100%.
and it goes back to, so you have that that relationship because you've worked at it and you understand it and you feel it. You know, if people had a fraction of that feel, that would be an amazing place to be, to, you know, for them, and myself included. I mean,
Just one thing to come in between. So, for
yeah,
instance, I was lucky enough, and only lucky because I made my choices going this direction. But you're talking about that feeling of feeling a little bit free, but this you can have
yeah,
in everything what you're doing in life.
yes,
So maybe some people don't have this kind of feeling with horses, but they can have the same feeling with doing something else. So if you can find that kind of feeling, it doesn't matter what kind of exercise or what kind of thing you're doing in life, then maybe you can just think about the situation, try to develop a little bit more that direction, and you will see that feeling, that inner feeling, that freedom is gonna develop 10 times more, and in a way that sometimes you cannot even imagine. But what happens often, and that's always kind of difficult, even if you have such kind of experience, a lot of people always also fear this experience because sometimes it's so beautiful that you know, oh, maybe it's not true, and you just break it yourself because dreams are sometimes too beautiful to become true.
yes,
That's what they say, that's what they think, but I don't agree. Not at all either.
no, yeah, and I suppose the fear sometimes, if that's available, if they think if that's available, then I could change a lot in my life, and that's a big thing to think about, depending
Mhm,
on where you are.
mhm.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this chat, and I do feel like it could have taken a whole different route. So I'm just going to see. I don't think we've got any questions actually. So there's people watching, but I can't see any comments. Um, so if there was one piece of advice or one thing that you'd like to say to somebody, just to give them inspiration about themselves, what would you advise? What would you say? What would be your thing to say?
But I already told a little bit before, is just try to, if you're able just to find and that's very difficult to explain, but if you're able to find your purpose or goal in life, you will see that everything is going to change in so many ways. The thing is, it doesn't mean like when you found this, it doesn't mean like everything is going to be very smooth and without any troubles. Not at all, because you're still going to have you're still going to come across your obstacles. But the big difference in between both is, if you find your energy or you've really your purpose, then you will feel the motivation to still continue and still thrive on your way. If you don't have this, you're also going to have obstacles, but every time you're going to cross an obstacle, you're going to get a little bit more beat down, you become more negative, or you don't know why, and you want to blame other people. And so I do think that that's really the key of really everything, to be honest. But then, yeah, once again, how if you want to achieve that one, that's a whole process, and that's what I'm trying to offer in the program that I created. So that's
Okay.
the basic thing.
So what I'll do is I'll the links are on here anyway, so this video can be seen again and people can watch it if they want to. But all the links to your website are on there anyway, and your Facebook page, so they can find out more about you and ask you questions if they want to understand a
Sure.
little bit more of what you offer. It's been fascinating chatting to you. I didn't know what to expect because, like I said, I didn't know huge information about you, but that's how I prefer it. I don't. I could read your bio and say all this, but I don't. It would just be reading. So for me to chat with somebody and get to know them face to
It's
face,
different, of course.
it is a better way. And I'm always guided by what comes along to me. So you crossed my path. I asked you, and it was a little while ago, and we finally got together, which is great. Whoops. So yeah, so thank you so much.
You're
I think
welcome. Thank
we're
you for
going to.
inviting me. I
No,
appreciate
you are truly welcome. What I'm going to do is just pop you out like before, and then if you don't mind hanging around just for a little while, so I can say goodbye personally, and then
it.
I'll just say goodbye to everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So I have
Um,
to say goodbye also now.
yeah. So if you say goodbye to the
So
viewers, but
okay.
don't
Thank you everyone for watching. I'm wishing you guys all the best, and maybe we see each other again in the future in I don't know, different projects or different interviews, or maybe I'm gonna get invited back again by Ronnie. You never know. Anyway, thank you
absolutely.
for inviting me, and
Okay.
everybody have a good evening, and
Okay.
sleep well.
So I'm going
Ciao.
to pop you out, but
Yeah.
but don't disappear. Okay. Oh, we just got a comment. You are welcome, Jacqueline. I found that fascinating, and it's like I said, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I can feel that what he's trying to say, what he's trying to do is definitely something to look into, and I definitely would like to have him back again. So once again, his Facebook page and his website will be at the end of this video. You can watch this again if there's anything that you'd like to recap over, or contact Matthias himself, and he will explain a little bit more about what he does and where he's going in the future. Once again, to the viewers, thank you so much for being here, and I do hope you've enjoyed it. My guests come, and it's their own time that they give and share their knowledge and their experience in their life. Have a wonderful evening, and I shall be let you know about my next interviews. I've got 2 more interviews coming up next week, so I shall post about those. One on Monday and one on Friday, which I'm looking forward to too. But in the meantime, thank you to my guests, the people that are watching, and I shall speak to you soon. Have a lovely evening. Thank you for being here. Bye for now.